Welcome again to everyone. If I haven't said hello to you already today or this weekend, my name is Heather Thomas, and I'm the founder of Together Culture. And we've had a whirlwind 6 months where we have been exploring the heritage of Kite, the neighborhood where the people who got Together Culture up and off the ground live. We were really inspired to start Together Culture because there was a lot of change happening in our neighborhood. So round about the time when the Grafton sector went up for sale. And so we got very interested in wanting to understand more about our origins and more about how we build community power and more about what is the nature and the culture of our place and what sort of change do we want the future to bring. And so we've been working in the process of co-creation for 4 years to start developing that vision. And Together Culture, this place that you're in right now, which is a membership organization where people are trying to help build a local economy that's more inclusive and ecological, and people come together for sharing and caring and learning and working and happenings like the happenings that are happening today. So as we've collected oral histories from 100 different people to understand more about the kite, this notion that we've all heard of and I'm sure rolls off many of our tongues called town and gown came up over and over and over again. And some people felt ambivalent towards it. Some people felt very strongly as though they identified as a part of town or a part of gown. Some people felt that there was a sense of separation. Some people thought that there was huge opportunities and wonderful ways that town and gown have worked together across the years. All of this came up when we started talking about town and gown. And there were 3 topics in particular that people wanted to talk about time and again. Land. Who owns what and gets to make the decisions? Power. What exactly is power? And how is power and force a different thing? And change. And yesterday we had a really interesting conversation about power in a forum like this. And we heard a lot about people who came together in the Kite in the 1970s, some to fight the development of the Grafton Center, and others who were part of that movement, but also wanted to develop a different way for the Kite to be redeveloped. Not the Grafton Center, but something else that could lean into the cultural heritage of the Kite that was much more about people and collaborative entrepreneurialism and social progress and creative expression. And that seems to be the thing that, as Together Culture has been talking to people about what they would like this neighborhood to be, especially as Cambridge goes on this journey to be part of the Silicon Valley of the UK, that we definitely wanted to make sure that that heritage was reinvented for the 21st century. We heard a lot of very inspiring stuff from Hong Kong and from Zhuzheng's background working in Hong Kong, where there were big corporate developers who made these amazing sky rises that we probably all equate to visions of what we think of as how Hong Kong happened. But at the same time, the work that other people just got on doing and created a world within that world that still feels probably more authentic to what Hong Kong was originally. And when we were talking about power, we started talking about what exactly power is. So we talked a lot about how power comes in listening and sharing experiences, sharing and understanding passions, skills, and people believing in their own capabilities, and other people seeing your capabilities and supporting you in being able to step into your own personal power, and how that's really necessary before community power can emerge. That's super duper top line, as it was an hour and a half conversation. But it was a rich conversation. There were lots of calls to action, which I'm not going to go into now. But the last thing I'm going to tell you before we embark on the talk that we'll have today is that Together Culture has been going through a 6-month process in terms of uncovering heritage that we think is just the absolute beginning. So what we're really hoping is that this 6 months becomes 5 years of work. And the conversations that we're having today and that we've been having over the course of the past few days is another co-creation from our perspective. And we're listening to people and trying to figure out how we can move those intentions forward. So, without further ado, I'm going to take off my hat as hostess, and I'm going to be handing over interviewing responsibilities to Zhuzheng today. We have a very special guest, straight through the space-time continuum, which is Davy Hopkins, who lived here in the Kite at the turn of the 20th century. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about Together Culture. We're going to be in conversation, and then that just hopefully serves to get your brains working. And then we're going to have conversations at these tables. Every table has a facilitator that will help us all have a conversation about change, and more calls to action will emerge from it. How does that sound? All right. Yay! Okay. Sit down.
Hi everyone. Nice to see many of you again, and welcome to all the new people. I'm Zhuo Jiang from Cambridge Room. So we work with Theatre Culture for this Let's Go Fly the Kite event. And today, very welcome Dizzy Hawking and Heather Thomas. And first, I want to ask a few questions for Dizzy. You live in the type era, right? In the 19th century. You live actually Gold Street.
Like
what we call?
Yeah, Gold Street. Yeah.
It doesn't exist anymore. Things has changed really a lot. I'm just wondering if you could first of all tell us a little bit more what the kites look like when you lived here.
Yeah, I mean, for a start, it wasn't Kite then, it was East Barnwell. That's where we lived. And it was like a little town. There was everything there. There were shops, there were grocers, there were butchers. You could get shoes mended, you could get clean clothes, you could do whatever what you would in a normal town. But in this lovely area, it was busy, very usually, crowded. Some would refer to it as a bit slum-like. I mean, the houses were small, 2 up, 2 down, very cramped. We had sheep being brought down the street because they'd go over to the common to graze. So you'd have sheep running up. That was very normal. See sheep there. And we looked after each other. I mean, there was a lot of gossip. You couldn't get away with nothing. But we looked after each other as well. We were a community. We supported each other. Everybody knew everybody. We looked after each other's children. We looked after the elderly. I mean, I came from a family of 11. And at one point, most of us were living in a 2 up, 2 down. Till my fathers went out to work on coal. So it was cramped, busy. So it was our homes.
Sounds lovely. Yeah, I can see some sheep now. Okay.
So we go down to Midsummer Commons.
And I understand that you had a run-in with the law and were placed in prison.
Actually, it wasn't the law. It was...
What really happened?
It was the university. So, to try and cut a long story short, I was out one evening. I'd been to Newnham to visit my fiancé. He wasn't there. I was a bit annoyed about that, so I was stomping back home, and I was stopped by a young man who asked directions. And I'm a pleasant person. I like talking, and I thought he's quite handsome, quite easy on the eye. I was happy to talk to him, and these university proctors, so these were men who were employed by the university, nothing to do with the law, nothing to do with police. They were employed by the university to patrol the streets, kicking at women like me, women who build with poo. So, we used to call them bulldogs. So these 2 bulldogs was walking up the street. They saw me with this young man who they said was an undergraduate at the university. How they knew that, I don't know, because he wasn't wearing his academic. But anyway, they told me to be on my way, and I scurried off. But then, stupidly, I stopped to talk to another young man who was my friend, and this time the bulldogs caught up with me and they essentially arrested me. Slammed me against some railings. I remember it happening because they actually ripped under the sleeve of my dress. And they physically dragged me to the Spinning House, which was a prison for women in Cambridge. It was 11 o'clock. I know this because the church bells were chiming, and already there was a crowd of people outside the spinning house. Because, like I was saying earlier, word gets around quite quickly. There was a lot of gossip, and they'd heard me shouting and yelling in the street, so it courted some interest. So they were standing outside the spinning house. And as I say, no police were involved. No police. It was these men from the university who were employed specifically to look out for immoral women. I will add that I was on the list of known prostitutes to the police. I was 17. I wasn't a prostitute. So that was evidence as far as these bulldogs was concerned. Anyway, I was put into a cell. I was there for several hours. They'd already built a new courtroom within the spinning house. So actually, early that morning, I was on trial. And when I say I was on trial, I was asked my name, my date of birth, my address. That was it. The young man in question wasn't there. He wasn't called to trial. And they basically said that I was being charged with talking to an undergraduate. That was my crime. So anyway, I went back to my cell, and a couple of days later, we did go down to London. My father came with me, and I challenged the Vice-Chancellor of the university, because that's the other thing. The Vice-Chancellor was never called to court either. So this was the first time he had to attend court, because I made a right royal fuss. And he came down, he had to come to London. I went down with my father, and I said basically what happened was totally unjust, totally not within the law, and totally unacceptable. And I won. No, court. Sadly, when I decided to take the university to court, and we went to Ipswich again with my dad, we didn't win that. The university won that case, that court case. But I'd made such a fuss by this point, but people knew me. My name was getting known. The papers had picked me up. I mean, apparently there was a newspaper in New York that ran this story. Women's rights were all over it. Our community was all over it. So although I didn't win the final case against the university, I did have a small victory. Thank you.
Probably didn't win the case against the university because it was a big organisation that they weren't going to allow you to win it.
And I understand, and I don't know the detail because I'm not that bright, but I do understand there was a technicality, and that's why the university was the game.
What years I got, Daisy, was you got the law changed because the Home Secretary was so horrified about what happened that he got the Vice-Chancellor and Mayor of Cambridge to sit down together with a classicist called Sir Richard Jebb. And he was the Member of Parliament for the University of Cambridge, as in those days Cambridge University had its own MPs. And the Home Secretary said, "This is such despicable outrage. You two sit down together with Sir Richard and come up with a new piece of legislation to sort this all out." That's why in 1894 Parliament passed and Queen Victoria enacted, I think it's called the Corporation and University of Cambridge Act 1894, which confines the Proctors and the Bulldogs to their barracks. Now, Sir Richard Jebb was also the uncle of Eglantine, the founder of Save the Children. He also spent some time in this city of ours, recording the history and the social scientific, in a social scientific manner, the problems of poverty and multiple deprivation. It's part of town. I strongly recommend her 1906 book, A Brief Study of Social Questions in Cambridge.
Thank you, Anthony. But that's just, and also for many of you maybe don't know, the spinning house was not actually a prison. It was at the University of Cambridge.
It was actually originally a spinning house that was converted by the university. Again, nothing to do with the law. to imprison women like me. And I believe there were something like 8,000 women were imprisoned over the course of spinning houses period. But that, again, I think, gave me the voice.
Yeah.
The night that I was signing in, I just thought about all those women before me and potentially all those women after me that were going to go through this despicable humiliation. Because it wasn't just about me, it was about my family, it was about their families. It had such an impact being thrown into that place. You mean not me?
Yeah. I mean, just for you to know, the university now they don't have that power anymore, and thank you. I think we all give a big applause to DB Opera. And back to 2025. Many things have changed, and many things still needs to be changed. And Heather, you are leading, I think it's a group actually making things to change. What do you find inspiring from this story?
Well, yes, I thank you, Daisy, because I mean, as a woman living in Cambridge, my life is different today because I think you stood in your power. What really, really strikes me about Daisy's story is, yes, the injustice of it, but it's just hard to process this teenager having enough sense of her own self-worth to just say, I'm not going to believe what you say about me. I know that I matter. I know that I have value. And so that really, really strikes me. And what strikes me about your story is, at least in my experience in life, that doesn't necessarily just come naturally. There have to be people around you who reinforce that and who love you and can care about you. And I think when you were talking about the neighborhood that you lived in and how you knew people on the streets and you knew other women who this had happened to, that I don't know, it's putting ideas into your mind, but I think that that must have helped in some way. So I hear in what's so inspiring to me is that you found the courage to say, I'm not going to listen to what you want me to think about myself. I believe in myself. And that there was a whole community of people who were saying, enough, we're done with what a group of people are saying about us. We believe in ourselves and we know to be mad. That's profoundly inspiring.
Thank you. And probably my next question, I noticed that our theory of change, I guess we all want to know more about the Ultra, about, it's essentially a change-making force. But before that, we're just wondering what draws you into this business of change? Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So I think similar to Daisy, I think it's personal, isn't it? So I think that change is just the natural order of things. We live in a universe that's constantly expanding. We live on a planet that's constantly revolving. And we all see the changes of the seasons and our bodies. I'm 50 years old. I'm seeing a lot of changes in my body right now. And I think it also just has to do with identity and getting comfortable with change. So it's this natural order of things, but it feels like a lot of what's going on in society, in the world, is people resisting it, need to pretend that change isn't the natural order. And it just leads to a lot of problems. And I think on a personal level, I pretty much, change can be scary, but I mean, I'm a product of a care system that worked. My mother got pregnant with me and was very in love. My father ended up incarcerated. This was in Scotland. And so I was put into a foster home. She didn't raise me. And I was adopted by amazing people. And I ended up on the other side of the ocean in New York, where you were in the papers. And it just so happened that my adoptive grandfather, was a Welsh immigrant. So my father, even though he was incarcerated in Scotland, is Welsh. And this man was incredible. So my granddad, Dave, was one of 6 children who came over as immigrants looking for a better life. And there were 6 children in the family. But when the parents got to the States, they realized it wasn't the land of milk and honey. And so the kids ended up in 3 different states and 3 different orphanages. And when he became my grandfather, it was just really important for him, for me to know that that you're your own home. And no matter what anybody tells you, because you don't have a specific identity, you're not wanted. You have value, make your way. And for him, it was really important for me to know that Cymru was always with me, wherever I went in life, because a lot of Welsh people are part of a diaspora as well. So I think just the underpinnings, I've had really good change experiences from literally the start of my life. And I just hope that people understand that change is natural. And that if we trust each other and we see one another as a human family, as well as just our biological families, that it can be okay. And that we can make big changes happen even in the face of dramatic injustices. We can all be Daisy Hawkers.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And now, can you please tell us more about Together Culture?
Yeah, so Together Culture, as I was saying, it was a group of friends who just all live in the streets around here and like to drink pints at the Free Press on the weekends. I wonder if you ever had a pint at the Free? It's quite probably day to do it, but for sure that. When the Grafton Centre went up for sale, we thought this is a jolly interesting opportunity, because the high street was so many shops had already started shut down because of COVID anyway. And we thought there's an opportunity here to kind of scratch the surface of the stuff that we knew about the Kite. I had never heard Daisy's story, but I knew a lot about what happened in the 1970s, just by talking to my neighbors. And thinking about the context of Cambridge and some of Cambridge's big sticky problems, like a problem with social mobility, a problem with social inequality, in a place that has all the resources that you could hardly believe. It was thinking, well, what's the opportunity here? How could we take some space? And how could we take some space over it in a way that we could participate in shaping a local economy and create a 21st century version of what the Kite had been previously? And we started really thinking if the UK, if the Oxford-Cambridge corridor is going to be the Silicon Valley of the UK, what can we look at that hasn't worked in Silicon Valley? And what's the value that we can bring as a community, as people, to really make this a place that doesn't make social inequality greater, but actually lessens it and puts people in the position of being able to do meaningful work and meaningful work in service to one another. So that's how Together Culture started. And so, yeah, you were pointing to the theory of change that's on the wall. And we've been working in co-creation since 2021 to figure out a way to do that. And effectively, there are 3 core pillars. There are 3 core outcomes. So we're working to build a more inclusive and ecological local economy in Cambridge. A big part of it, revitalizing what the Kite has always been. The first pillar is bringing a community of diverse but like-minded people together. People who want to do meaningful work and contribute to something that's bigger than themselves. The second bit is helping that community to foster a culture. So a culture in which people can disagree, where people can develop their self-esteem, where people can figure out how to make decisions together, where people can understand design thinking and how to think like an ecosystem and break down silos. People can actually listen to one another, which is a huge thing that we've been doing over the past 6 months. So ways to bring that culture together. Each year we run something called the Citizen Studio, which is a co-creation amongst the membership that takes the question that bubbles up from the membership, and we come up with an answer to it. And then we run an incubator. So we figure out how to put what we think our priorities are into action and use membership fees. So membership starts at £18.50 a month. And if people don't have the money, it's no problem. We sort that out for them. But it runs between £18.50 a month and £100 if you've got a designated workspace. That's true. And we use those membership fees to put the ideas that emerge from the incubator into action. So we're a group of people that are creating social enterprises and activities that it's not just about Together Culture, it's about the wider community in which we exist. And this whole kite festival and this whole project being from last year's Citizen Studio. That's what Together Culture is.
Singular. I guess it's a mixture of people and Okay, thank you for that. Before my last question, I just want to. I think this morning you thanked for many people, but I think we should really thank Together Culture. Thank you for hosting this, and and also for sharing. For thank you, Daisy, for sharing your beautiful story and powerful. Thank you very much. Well, one last question.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. For both of you, for Lizzie, what if you can travel through time?
Oh.
Yeah. What would you have wished for? Like, what kind of change you would have wished for the future of Cambridge?
Goodness me. Huh. That's a big question. I think a little bit of that did happen with Orpheus's Spinning House shutting down. That was a huge change, with the university losing that power over people like myself. But I suppose the biggest thing would be equality for women. You know, it's tough. It's tough being a young girl like me who, I was brought up to be outspoken. I was brought up to wear nice clothing. We couldn't afford particularly nice clothing, but my mother taught us girls how to sew and how to embellish and how to put feathers on our hats. And when I was 17, walking through the streets, that was seen as me being a loose woman, being, a femme fatale, if you like, just because I liked to look nice. And because I was working class, that was not appropriate. So that needs to change. Women should be able to wear what they like. They should be able to say what they like. They should be who they want to be. And I feel that within our sport community, there was a certain element of being able to do that. As Cambridge as a whole and with the university, we weren't allowed. I mean, I wasn't even supposed to be walking the streets outside of my own community. And that is just not appropriate. So change for women. Change for women is a really big thing for me.
Okay. I like your Bible.
Oh, thank you. A pretty. Again, I did a bit of embellishing there. Put the little sequins all to make it look pretty. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
hello, Mike.
For the next 100 years, I think it's echoing what Daisy said a bit. It's more freedom for everybody to do something that's meaningful. So in this project, we've been talking a lot about how the Kite could become a citizens' enterprise zone. How can we put the power back in the hands of local communities to develop a local economy that works for them instead of the other way around? And I think we can do that. And when we do that, it's a process of helping people find their value and build their self-esteem, and creating entirely new, different types of work that don't exist yet. And to get paid for it in a way that you can make a proper living, which is a lot of what's happened here in the past. So surely we can do it again. And I think that the Kite has made national headlines and international headlines many points throughout its history. And I think we can be a beacon for the world. If we can do it anywhere, we should be able to do this in Cambridge. And I think it would be wonderful for Cambridge to be known as a place that is innovative in creating much greater equity and a regenerative economy that is a model for the future. I think that's what we can do in the next 100 years.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for
Thank you.
joining us again.